Hello. I think we're recording. So
Hello.
hi. I was going to say it's the 21st of March, but it's actually gone midnight now, so it's the 22nd of March, 2020, and we have decided to say hello to you. Firstly, I need to say I thought about putting makeup on and I thought about getting dressed, but that would be being dishonest. So the main reason that we kind of wanted to do this it was partly so that he'd speak, but also so that we were documenting what's going on, and more accurately would be me talking and him not, but we're documenting what's going on, and as such I am not dressed and my hair is not brushed and I am not made up, but yeah, anyway.
I did get dressed today, but only so I could leave the house and get groceries. Otherwise, I would be in my pajamas as well.
Panic buying.
It wasn't panic. Panic bought rhubarb.
Yeah, you did.
I'm gonna make a panic crumble. It's gonna be really nice.
Yeah, I've never had crumble before, so like I've never had crumble. I've never had any crumbles.
Oh, mate.
Mate.
You're in for a treat.
Well.
Have you had rhubarb?
I've had rhubarb.
In what form have you had rhubarb?
Well, I've had rhubarb flavoured things, mainly gin, actually. Rhubarb and ginger gin.
I don't think you can say you've had rhubarb.
No, I have had rhubarb. There was like a little compote-y cup thing that I had rhubarb in. It was very nice. It was like back in my non-vegan days, it was like a yoghurty thing with like a rhubarb compote.
Mm.
It was nice. I know what rhubarb tastes like, and I sort of think I can imagine what crumble feels like. It's not really about the flavour, is it?
Sure, you can imagine.
Yeah. Well, you're going to prove me right or wrong tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, rhubarb crumble is happening. So that's what's happening. That's what we're doing while the world's ending, is we're making rhubarb crumble.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just so, you know. So day one of not entirely official isolation, because basically the reason we've started this now is obviously this has been bubbling under for a bit. But yesterday was sort of an important day for two reasons. Firstly, it was our anniversary, 1 year.
An important day.
It was an important day for all of us, yeah. So that was sort of important, but in terms of sort of nationally, yesterday they announced that all sort of hospitality and leisure businesses had to close. The reason that's important to me is that I run an escape room, and therefore I had to shut, which I was kind of praying for anyway, not because I wanted to not work, because I'd rather be earning money than not, but I didn't really think like we should be encouraging people to go out, really, at the moment. Everybody's being told to self-isolate and stay at home, so it kind of feels irresponsible to be telling people to, stay at home, except come and spend your money with me. So I was quite glad that we shut. And so sort of yesterday for me was, right, now I can officially just stay home. Like I don't have to go out for anything other than like buying food and absolute essentials. So that's where I am. Chris, however, like, what have you been told by your employers?
Well, nothing yet. Well, we've changed our opening hours from 9 till 6 instead of 8:30 till 7. So shortened the days a bit, but yeah. So I'll still be until I hear otherwise. I'll still be commuting to Cardiff to work, which is not ideal, but can't afford not to do that. So would like to be staying at home and sort of isolating. Really, I think that's what people should be doing if they can. And also as a personal preference. Never been fond of people, so this is the excuse I've been looking for.
I've also been looking for excuses not to wear makeup and brush my hair, so brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
So yeah, we'll see if we hear anything about work, but I work in an optician, so that's like a healthcare provider, so might be keeping open. Don't know that I count as a key worker, particularly.
Don't know. I think it's probably going to boil down to whether or not your employer decides you're a key worker.
Yes. Other than that, I normally I only work part-time there because I normally do stand-up comedy gigs as well, but those have all been cancelled. Understandably.
Yeah.
Reasonably. I'm not complaining, but...
Well, to be fair, you could keep doing them, just nobody's going to go.
Nobody's going to go. Well, no venue is open to let me do them, even if.
Hospitality, obviously, bars, clubs, restaurants, all of those places are now shut.
Don't really fancy live streaming stand up from my sofa. Not really the same way. It's not the audience and the atmosphere and everything. So, and there's so many Netflix specials anyway. Why? Because either you're gonna try and do jokes about the situation that's happening, and there's probably enough of that going on, or you're not going to mention that, and you're just going to try and do jokes about, regular stuff, and everyone's going to think, why isn't he talking about the thing? There's a big elephant in the room that he's not addressing, which is the crisis. So you might as well watch a Netflix special where you can get a bit of escapism and hear about things other than coronavirus, but from people who recorded it beforehand who had no way of knowing. So you're not thinking, well, why aren't they talking about the coronavirus?
Yeah.
Why are they seems a bit self-involved, just talking about his kids? Like, it's fine. So,
well, we did sort of tried as a sort of bit of escapism yesterday to just be like, oh, well, we'll just put a film on and kind of ignore this for a bit, have a little bit of escapism. And then we just kept finding that things in films and TV programmes and all just sorts of stuff, we started just over-relating. So, like, even in, like, an episode of Modern Family, we were just going, oh, he's self-isolating, she's self-isolating because she's sick, and he's been locked in a cupboard, so he's, like, on his own, and, like, dealing with like, we're just over-relating.
It was a really weird episode, because there was someone who was ill, so she was wearing a face mask, and people wanted to keep their distance from her.
Oh, yeah, she had mono, which I think is glandular fever, I don't know.
And then someone got locked on his own in a cupboard and was worrying about being locked in there on his own for ages. Then when he returned to the house, he went, "Don't worry, family, I'm alive," and just all very resonate-y in an unexpected way. But even the episode before that we were watching, and there was it's hard to kind of switch off and kind of go, oh, okay, these people in this TV show aren't dealing with the thing, so you just, they're talking about going to a party, and I'm like, you shouldn't be going to a party right now. Like, and it's not.
So I mean, like, that's very socially irresponsible. Stop it.
Literally,
like, oh no,
actually,
in
America,
that's fine. Yeah, you're allowed.
Yeah,
go party it up. I sort of wish. Actually, I was going to say I sort of wish I'd gone to more parties, but that's bullshit. I'm quite happy to have missed all those parties. I'm not happy about how many wrinkles I can see in my head on this video, but never mind.
But we've tried to instigate a rule that if we're watching TV, like a film or a TV show, we don't look at our phones too much and interrupt that with more coronavirus news, because I think it's good to have a rule where we're trying to keep on aware of what's happening and abreast of everything, but I think it's good not to let that overwhelm us. And sort of, I
think that's the thing that I'm struggling with, is because it's changing so constantly. Literally, like, you can just sort of look away for a bit and then somebody points out a new statistic that's come out of another country. Like, for example, today in Italy, they had a spike in the last 24 hours in the death toll of almost 800 people in a day. And that is terrifying. That's obviously terrifying anyway, and awful, because obviously that's a lot of people to die anyway. But from a very selfish and self-absorbed point of view, I'm looking at Italy and going, well, that's where we're going to be in a few weeks from now. And I'm also looking at it going, well, they were a lot stricter on their lockdown a lot quicker than we were here. Like, when, like, in the UK, they started to sort of announce, like, this is what we need to do, it was very lax. It was very like, oh, hey, guys, so maybe don't go to the pub. Like, don't go to the pub unless you really need to go to the pub. Like, who needs to go to the pub? But also, pubs can't shut if they've not been told to, because they're not going to be able to reclaim lost earnings on their insurance. So they're going to have to stay open. And if pubs stay open, people will continue to go to pubs. Same goes for restaurants, clubs, gyms, etc. Which is why I was in a weird position where I had to stay open, but I didn't want people to come. So we were sort of faffing about not being closed and essentially letting people carry on doing what they like, and just hoping like a little bit of vague peer pressure from the news was going to sort of get people to stay home. And so we were faffing, whereas it seems anyway that Italy kind of went, oh shit, this is this is big or potentially big, so let's shut up shop. You can go to the shop to buy food. If obviously you're a doctor or a nurse or a key worker, you can still go to work, but otherwise stay the fuck home. And everybody seemed to be essentially staying the fuck home. And they did that. They implemented that quicker than we have, and now we are, say, 2 weeks behind them in terms of where we were when we had our first case as to like where we are now, and we're already overtaking the stats there in terms of death toll, cases reported, and that in itself is a worry because they're not testing most people. The cases that are getting confirmed are only really people who are ending up in hospital, and that's not really a fair estimate of the numbers of people who are getting this, so it's also not a fair way of sort of showing how much it's spreading, even despite the fact that people are more than normal. I think most people are cutting back on being out and about. Like I think that's fair to say that like it's quiet, but you were out in town today shopping.
Yeah, well, it was a weird hypocritical time for me where I was thinking, who are all these people who are wandering about the streets shopping while I was wandering about the streets shopping?
But all these irresponsible dickheads.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah, all right.
How important can this be?
But I was getting,
Maybe they needed rhubarb.
I'm not stockpiling, but I have tried to make sure we pick up some pet food because they can't fetch it for themselves.
To be fair, that's probably the one thing that we have stockpiled. Like, we've
bit.
got more... But, like, I always stockpile pet food because neither of us drive, so we only go to the supermarket sort of every few weeks and we buy, like, a few pallets of, like, Lucy's dog food and a few boxes of the big pouches of the cat food. Oh, we have 4 cats and a dog, by the way.
But there's enough food, or, like, if there's a shortage on something, we can eat something a bit unusual or different, or we can make do or whatever, but the cats have to have cat food, the dog has to have dog food, and we need, and if there's a shortage of that, there's not really a substitute. So yeah, that's what I have. But anyway, so I've got a few other bits while I was out for the cupboards and things, but yeah, not panic buying, because people shouldn't be panic buying. There's plenty of food, and the shelves are being replenished. It's just the panicking that's creating any temporary shortages, but there's actually loads of food, so it's fine. And actually, we're quite lucky. I mean, we're especially lucky because we're not particularly, we don't think, going to be unduly financially hit by things. Obviously, we're going to be a bit frugal, but hopefully we won't. You know, we're not going to starve, and we're not going to end up on the streets. We have a lot of people who are freelance who are a lot more harder hit by this. So, and also,
you have lost your self-employed earnings. But I am self-employed, but thankfully, I had started paying a modest wage from the escape rooms, which, unbelievably, a Tory government has said that they are going to essentially subsidise wages so that people don't get laid off, which is sensible. It makes sense because you don't want swathes of unemployed when all of this eventually is over. Better that people have a job to go back to. But yeah, it's sort of a bit mental because 80%, they're covering 80% of people's earnings, which, like, fair play to them. They're actually being kind of socialist, and I don't know quite how to feel about it because, like, I'm grateful because that is what I will have to live on. And if I'm not out and about and sort of going to work, like I'm not catching taxis, I'm not using public transport, I'm not sort of out and about, 80% of my earnings is probably going to be okay. Like, I'm not buying coffees and not going to Greg's and getting a sausage roll on my lunch break, and like there's like those extra spending that you have because you're out. Well, I'm not going to have those. So 80% of my earnings is probably going to be okay for me. And if that is what you get, because there's a chance that they might just say to you, "Keep coming in."
Yeah, well, I might have to just keep working. So, but if I am, at least I've got that income. I've lost a chunk of my income from comedy gigs, but there's a lot of people we know that are just completely freelance comedy, and they're having to.
And they seem to be the one group that has been entirely left behind, because people who were already struggling, say on like Universal Credit, they've upped Universal Credit, I believe. They've sort of looked after people who are on 0 hours contracts to an extent, I believe.
They've
But
helped
people who are
business owners, employees.
renters, they've kind of screwed over a little bit because they've said that mortgage holders have the opportunity. They don't have to take it, but if they need to take it, they can take a 3-month break. However, they have not said that you have to pass that break on to your renters if you want to.
So, yes,
if you have them. So renters still basically kind of might go, I can't afford to pay my rent. The only thing that they have put to protect renters is they're not allowed to evict you for 3 months now, rather than 1 month. But it's not much of a comfort to somebody who doesn't have money coming in. But like, oh, okay, well, I'll be evicted in 3 months instead of 1. Oh, that's nice. Because there's no prospect of money coming in. Like, everything has dried up in terms of earnings and sort of like nobody can really... The thing that I'm struggling with the most is that I keep just about getting myself on an even keel, sort of feeling like, okay, so this is the situation. And then it changes. Like, okay. Like, literally to the extent where, when it comes to the escape rooms, like, I was sort of coming up with a contingency plan for, okay, right, how am I going to, like, so these are my new hygiene practices. This is what I'm going to say to customers. This is how I'm going to, because I'm going to have to encourage customers to keep coming because I have to keep paying rent and I have to keep covering my costs because I have to stay open. And I'm literally having a chat about the strategy for that. And then the announcement comes through that, oh no, we can close. Oh, okay, right, fine. So all of that, like I went through all of April and May changing the schedule. So I had like more time to clean. And then once that's done, the situation changes. And that keeps happening. And that's fucking with my mental health hugely because every time I sort of feel like, okay, so this is it. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, and so I kind of been pleading for just tell us that we have to do X, Y, or Z. Don't tell us, oh, we recommend, because there's half the population taking it maybe too seriously and getting massively stressed out and, like, really emotional. I'm talking about me, mainly. And then there's the other half of the population who are just sort of chilling. Just being like, oh, I think this is all overblown and I don't really think this matters. And I think this is all going to be an overreaction.
Yeah, I saw a thing online that has stuck with me that I think is good is, you know, if strict measures work, it's going to look like we've overreacted. We have to be prepared to look like we've overreacted because it's better that than the opposite where we don't take strict measures and then lots of people die.
Yeah, so, the thing I'm terrified about is regretting my own actions. Like, I don't want... And also, it is kind of important to say that I'm not particularly worried about myself. Like, financially, things could be better, but we'll live. I'm not, like, I have, like, some underlying health problems, but I'm essentially, even if I get this, I'm going to be fine. I will have maybe a bit longer in bed than most people, and I'll have a bit of a miserable time, but chances are, I'm 34, I'm otherwise relatively healthy when it comes to sort of my, like, lungs, etc. I'll probably be okay if I get this. However, if I get this and I start coughing and 2 days later my dad or my mum or my gran start coughing, I'm going to be thinking, am I the one who brought that to them? Have they got that because of me? Because they might not do as well, because just literally by the statistics of their age groups. My parents are in their late 60s, my gran's about to turn 97, and I don't want to look back on my own actions and think, is that my fault? Or could I have done something better? Chances are it won't be. I'm doing everything I can, I think. But, that's what's fucking with the anxiety. It's just that level of, oh my God, like, what do I do to make this okay? Because this is fucking global. The scale of this is unprecedented. And it blows my mind that there's people just wondering about, like, acting like this is just normal. Like, we know a pub that we love and we frequent, like, often. Yesterday the announcement came that everybody has to shut who's basically, like, in hospitality. And so today, or it might have been yesterday, no, today, people were in the pub clearing it out and sort of tidying it up and setting it up for, like, being locked down for the next few months. And some, like, blokes walk in off the street and be like, hey guys, you're open? I'm like, how do you not know that they're not open? Like, no one's open. Like, how do you not know? Like,
the thing is, there's no reason
how do you not know?
There's no reason to be, like, if you have to go out to work, if your work's still open and you need to go there and you need the money, that is fine.
Yeah.
You know, no judgment there. You have to do these things. I'm going to have to go into work in the week. But other than that, like, you don't need to go to the pub. You don't need to go out unnecessarily. You don't need to be visiting people. And I know that can be tough, but, I mean, realistically, in this entire span of human existence, there has never been a better time to be locked in your own houses. Like, and we're lucky because we've got each other and we're surrounded by pets, and they're great, especially because they've got no idea what's going on, so they just carry on being their happy little furry idiot themselves. But, like, there's the internet, there are streaming services, so we've got movies and music, there's YouTube. You know, if you don't have a streaming service, you can watch loads of great stuff on YouTube for free and listen to music. And I mean, we've got board games and video games, which a lot of you will have. So there's never been a better time to be stuck in your house. It's, you know, it's gonna be a bit. You're gonna go a bit stir crazy. It's gonna be a bit dull. You're gonna get bored, whatever. But
people are already sort of finding ways around this and being amazing about it. I have to say, like. People sort of live streaming, well, this evening, live streaming a pub quiz. Like, and actually, it did feel like a pub quiz. I took it far too seriously and got very stressed out. So it sounds like an accurate, normal depiction of a pub quiz
that we go to.
Yeah, I don't. I take it far too seriously.
I like a pub quiz.
I like them in principle. I don't like them in practice.
Normally, when we have a pub quiz, there's a carvery. So that was a shame. But I'm going to do...
egg.
I am going to do... Yeah, do a carvery next week, actually. Egg, a virtual carvery for us, actually. If you just cook that and put it in a jiffy bag and leave it outside our door. But I'm going to do a Sunday roast tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is Mother's Day. Which, again, I'm lucky I've got the bits for, but yeah. Tomorrow is Mother's Day, and literally like 2 days ago, my mum, I don't want to like get in trouble. My mother, who is over 65, shall we say... and my grandmother, who is, like I say, about to turn 97. 2 days ago, my mum was like, "Oh no, but we're still having Gran over for Mother's Day dinner on the Sunday." And I'm there going, "I've been dealing with the public all week. Chris has been dealing with the public all week. No, we shouldn't all be sitting around a dinner table having Mother's Day dinner." We've been together a year now, and I don't know at what point you get so... You know, I like your parents and things, but you're still, you know, I think I'm always going to be a bit like, I want to make a good impression on... Yeah, you don't want to be like, I'll come to Mother's Day dinner. Yeah, so I don't want to be rude and not fun, but equally I don't want to be the guy who brought the germs into the house that killed your gran. I feel like that is not good. To be honest, I think that would probably make a worse impression. If you kill my gran, that's probably going to be worse than you refusing dinner. But the thing is, also, we shouldn't go to dinner. I mean, the truth Thankfully, today, my mum has gone, actually, what we're going to need to do is go in the car to Gran's flat and wave at her through the window. So she's finally sort of gone, okay, right, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that, but... Well, the truth is, like... I don't know how to deal with it. We never know. We wouldn't know who had brought it. If she caught it, we wouldn't know who was responsible, but you'd always have that nagging doubt, wouldn't you? Yeah, exactly. So that's, I think, the thing that I'm struggling with is I don't want to look back and think I could have done something better or different or been more responsible. Like, I would rather be overcautious than undercautious, but at the same time, I am also aware that, like, thankfully... over the last few years, my mental health has been pretty damn good, but I have had problems with anxiety in the past and depression in the past, and I do know that I do have a issue with over panicking about things. So then I sort of start like really struggling with like, is this anxiety or is this just a legitimate emotional response to quite a stressful time? And I think for the most part it's probably legit. Like, I think, like, to be feeling panicky and overwhelmed right now, it's kind of okay. If you're not, that's more when I'm like, I don't think you've been watching enough news, mate. Like, and I think it can be that social media, that, like, a lot of people have been spreading a lot of positivity online and talking very positively about the things they're doing to kind of get through it in the way they're coping, and that's really great and can be really helpful, but equally... they're not necessarily posting about the times that they're struggling. So if you're struggling, you can sometimes feel like, oh, everyone else seems to be doing okay.
Yeah.
Why am I the one that's not coping? But everyone, unless you're in denial or you're one of the people that just believes it isn't a thing, then I think everyone who accepts the gravity of the situation is going to struggle at times. And another thing that I've been thinking about, largely because the angle this is being filmed at is just exposing vast acres of chin.
Oh, look at that! Like, my skin has not looked as rough for a while.
But
yeah, do you know what? I'm not putting on makeup for you. I'm not. Screw you.
But the point I was trying to make is that, you know, a lot of people have been talking about, well, I'm going to set up a home gym, I'm going to get in shape, I'm going to use this alone time, I'm going to do loads of exercise, and, you know, and if that helps you through, great. Exercise can be great for mental health, and if that's brilliant. But equally, our friend Shani Thomas was pointing out today, if you put on a bit of weight because you're stressed or you're not getting out and about or whatever, there's no shame in that. And if you need some snacks to get through it, have some snacks and don't worry. So, and I was going to try to kind of seriously start calorie counting and
well, we both
losing
had
weight
sort
and
of like a
things
couple of,
and-
like about a month and a half ago, we'd both started calorie counting and trying to lose a little bit of weight, because as what tends to happen in new relationships is we both got all loved up and happy and then just quietly started packing on a few pounds together. Because you're all loved up and happy.
at the minute,
But yeah, now like
calorie counting.
yeah,
can go
calorie
fuck
counting
itself.
can fuck off,
Yeah.
basically. Priorities have switched a little when it
Yes.
comes to that.
I eat chocolate and crumble and roast dinner and gravy.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's on that mental health front. Actually, when it comes to that, because I was starting to calorie count and try to sort of lose a little bit of weight and having mixed success and sort of fluctuating and things, I kind of pointed out, I sort of said it out loud and then I heard myself say it, because I was sort of talking about, oh no, maybe I will still keep up with the calorie counting because it'll be really nice to feel like I'm in control of something. And I was like, oh, that's how eating disorders start. Like, where I'm just like, oh, I feel really anxious and stressed about things I cannot control in quite a stressful time. So I will make sure that I am like overly, and I because I've got a history with anxiety anyway, it used to, what's the word? It used to come out in terms of I was agoraphobic and I couldn't leave the house without a chaperone. Really cool. And thankfully I got past that. But I've got that in me to sort of exaggerate a problem and make it bigger and make it more intense and find strange coping strategies. And my coping strategy with finding the world too overwhelming then was to not go out into it, or at least if I did, it would be with somebody else who would deal with anything unexpected that happened. That's not where I'm at now, and that's not where my mental health is at right now. But when I start saying things to myself like, oh, actually, maybe it'll make me feel really good if I still manage to stay on track with my weight loss, even though all of this is going on. And then immediately I was like, ding, 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 that's not a good thought to be having. Like, I need to not go down that path because that's not necessarily a helpful one. Because I will seek out things that I can control when I feel very much like the world is out of my control. Like, even just beyond, like, sort of somebody pointed out quite jokingly, but it's accurate. Like, it's a weird turn of events where I am yelling at my parents for going out. Like, just like, no. Did you really need to go out? I think you should be staying at home and taking things a little bit more seriously. Thank you. Like, it's weird. Because, like, I don't know if this is just maybe with the people I know or if this is sort of across the board, but generationally, I think people, like, teenagers and below, not taking this that seriously, and the 50s and up, not giving a shit. And like all the people like in their sort of 20s to 40s going, guys, stop it. Can you stop it now?
Well, I got stressed because I checked in with my parents who, well, because they're young enough to kind of they're still quite fit and active and healthy, and they're old enough for me to be a little concerned, but not So, but young enough that I was worried that it might be offended if I sort of suggested they were, or implied they were vulnerable. So I sort of just sent them a message saying, "Hey guys, you're alright, look after yourselves." And they said they'd gone to the dentist.
That's what you do in a crisis.
Well, but you're just, and I'm sure it was all very hygienic and more sort of, because dentists have got to be them, you know, they've got to be hygienic and they've got to wipe things down and keep things clean. So I'm sure it was actually, you know, one of the best places you could be. But obviously, where my head goes is, guys, you shouldn't even be like shaking hands, let alone strangers put their hands in your mouth right now. Oh, guys,
I know.
guys, but there's only so much you can do. You know, you can offer advice and guidance, and you can help them, but at the end, you've got to let them make their own decisions. You know, it's the terrible 62s. You know? It's a difficult age, and yeah, what can you do?
You just got to let them go and make their own bad choices.
Yeah.
Janet, Jeremy, I'm talking to you.
So,
come on.
But they have really strong teeth, so so that's something. But yeah, but everyone taking it quite seriously. But we should probably wrap this.
We should probably wrap this up. We've been gasbagging for about half an hour now, and this was.
Yeah, that seems like a good.
It seems like a good amount of time to waffle. So yeah, I think that's probably us done. We will probably keep doing this, kind of checking in, a little update on what's going on and how mental we've gone, and also weird plans that we are making. We will come back in with you next time with strange things we've planned to do.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, hang on, that sounds like it could be misconstrued. Nothing that weird. Never mind. Perfectly innocent weird plans that we've made.